Welcome, dear Sadhakas, students of Vedic mathematics. We are visiting Vedic mathematics processing techniques. Today, our focus is to remain upon interlocked numbers and spaces. Formulation 8 is of transcendental code value 8, parallel with the transcendental code value of formulation Akash. 8 Akash makes value 16, parallel with the transcendental code value of Duvai 2 as 8 plus 8, 1 plus 1, and hypercube 1 as well leads to value 2 for all the four folds. This way, the interlocking of the numbers and spaces is the unique processing technique of the Vedic mathematics, and today our focus is to remain upon it. Therefore, we can say that we are imbibing Vedic mathematics processing techniques. Today, we are visiting the processing techniques of interlocked numbers and spaces, the artifices of numbers and dimensional frames are of parallel manifested features. It is Sankhya nishta and Yoga nishta which complement and supplement each other. These two folds of processing as processing formats run parallel to each other. We Sadhakas fulfilled with intensity efforts to imbibe and to be parallel with these Vedic systems shall sit comfortably and to permit transcending mind to imbibe these features of processing techniques of Vedic mathematics. This statement broadly outlines the base of this processing technique of Vedic mathematics. Let us proceed step by step. We begin with the formulation 1 as of TC value 8, which is parallel with the TC value of the formulation Akash. 8 Akash, 1 space. 8 Akash as formulation is of TC value 16, which is parallel with the TC value of the formulation Duvai 2. See, hypercube 2 is of TC value 6, while hypercube 1 is of TC value 2. And value 6 as 6 space domain will split as a 4 folds 6, 4, 4, 2 of summation value 16. See how these interlocks of artifices of numbers and of dimensional frames of these spaces are being changed by the Vedic systems. It is this interlocking of the artifices of numbers on the one hand and of the dimensional frames on the other hand, which is the subject format of chase of Vedic mathematics. Vedic mathematics is chasing the existence of phenomenon of our solar universe as manifested reality. It is this manifested reality which is being chased by Vedic mathematics. So Vedic mathematics, sciences and technologies can be said to be the technologies of processing the manifested reality of existence phenomenon of our solar universe. With this background, let us have a visit to hypercube 6, the representative regular body of a 6 space in 4 space. The domain boundary formulation of hypercube 6 is a raised to power 6 is to 12 b raised to power 5. So see the number 6 at the index as a raised to power 6 as 6 space domain, and number 12 as the components of the transcendental boundary. These are the manifested features. And see how these manifested features, values 6 and 12, are interlocked. See, 6 plus 12 is 18. And if we sequentially increase along the second digit and the one hand, means if we go on increasing 10 as a unit, then from 0, 6 we'll reach 1, 6, then 2, 6, 3, 6, 4, 6, 5, means 6, 16, 26, 36, 46, 56, so on. And on the other hand, the reach will be 18, 28, 38, 48, 58, and so on. And in the context of value 12, a reach from 16 to 28, 26 to 28, 36 to 38, 46 to 48, 56 to 58 is the interlocking of the domain and dimension. As we know, n as dimension leads to n plus 2 as a domain. One may have a pause here, and one shall revisit these organizations. Firstly, as domain and boundary, a raised to power 6 is to 12, b raised to power 5, it is in the context of hypercube 6. And then as domain and dimension, n as domain and n plus 2 as domain of domain, or n as dimension and n plus 2 as a domain. So this interlocking of double-digit numbers of 10 place value system on the one hand, and simultaneous manifesting and interlocking of the domains within dimensional frames, within dimensional boundaries on the other hand, bring us face to face with the chase, need, accepted, and worked out by the Vedic mathematics. The organization formats of 10 place value system and organization formats of the manifested bodies are having common manifestation format, and it is this which is being chased, which is being worked out, and which is manifesting at the base of the processing techniques of Vedic mathematics. This will take us to the concept of the dimensional synthesis. Vedic mathematics has reached at this synthesis phenomenon as that the dimensions of the same order are synthesizing as per the tabulation values on the computer screen. Linear order dimensions synthesize and lead to synthesis values 1 for a single value, 3 for double value, for pair of dimensions, 6 for triple dimensions, 10 for quadruple dimensions, and so on. And the spatial order dimension single is a value 2. 2 spatial dimensions are value 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and so on. If we have a revisit to creative dimension, 4 space as a dimension, And if we chase sequential dimensional synthesis of creative dimensions, then single dimension is leading us to value 4, pair of creative dimensions lead to value 6, triple creative dimensions as well of value 6, quadruple creative dimensions are of value 4, 5 such dimensions lead to value 0, 6 such value lead to -12, and so on. Let us have a pause. Let us now visit as to how the 12 components boundary of 6 space in this sequence will lead us to the coordination frame as -4 plus 12 as 8, and then from -4 to 6 means having addition value 10 on the row. So 6 will lead to 18, but its coordination as domain and dimension will be with 8. And so the previous table together with this will help us appreciate as to how the Vedic mathematics, which is accepting first letter for the text as 6th vowel of transcendental code value 6, is acquiring potentialities for the exhaustive chase of the manifested creations, existence phenomenon of our solar universe. One shall sit comfortably and to permit the mind to be parallel with this reach of the Vedic systems. 10 place value system, creative dimensional order of 6 space, and interlocking of the artifices on the one hand and of dimensional spaces on the other hand, or the spectra of features being simultaneously worked out by the Vedic systems. Let us now visit the formulation, thus disha, 10 directions. Formulation thus is of TC value 10. Formulation disha is of transcendental code value 12. We know the creative boundary of 5 space is of 10 components. A raised to power 5 is to 10, B raised to power 4. And also we know that the transcendental boundary of 6 space is of 12 components. A raised to power 6 is to 12, B raised to power 5. One may have a pause here and see the formulation, thus these are 10 directions. The 10 are the boundary components of the creative boundary of transcendental domain, and 12 are the boundary components of transcendental boundary of self-referral domain 6 space. How these values 10 and 12 interlocked as 10 as a dimension and 12 as a domain lead to coordination and integrated basis of manifestation for the creative boundary and of the transcendental boundary, and how the processing direction is to be from the creative boundary of 5 space to the transcendental boundary of a 6 space. One shall sit comfortably and be parallel with it, and this be imbibed well so that one can appreciate and one can be parallel with the Vedic processing system. It is this processing technique of coordination and integrating the values of the numbers and the dimensional frames which deserves to be imbibed well. It is with this imbibing that we shall be acquiring the needed mental state for the intelligence field to be parallel with the way the life is lively within our solar universe. Now, let us revisit hypercube 3, the representative regular body of 3 space, our well-known body cube. Our well-known body cube is having 12 edges, and this body is having manifestation along 10 directional frame. How 10 directional frame is manifesting as 12 edges frame, and further these 12 edges accept their organization in terms of sequential coordination of the 8 corner points as of 7 steps and of the 5 steps. It is this split of boundary of 12 components as of 7 components and 5 components, and parallel to it, the organization of 12 edges of the cube as a set of 7 edges sequentially coordinated by the 8 corner points as the first part and remaining 5 edges as the second part. It is this comprehension, it is this visualization which need be imbibed for being parallel with the Vedic processing techniques. With this, one can revisit the organization for the 10 creative boundary components of 5 space as well as of 12 transcendental boundary components of 6 space. The organization of 10 components as 4 plus 6 and organization of 12 components as 5 plus 7 are the features which bring us face to face with as to how the pair of creative dimensions synthesize 6 space value and pair of transcendental dimensions synthesize value 7. These features deserve to be comprehended well. One is to be parallel with these manifestation features and parallel to it the synthesis and split of the boundary components of the dimensional spaces. In particularly, the organization of creative boundary of 10 components as 4 components and 6 components, and of 12 transcendental boundary components as 5 components and 7 components, parallel with the dimensional synthesis of pair of creative dimensions of value 6 and pair of transcendental bound dimensions as value 7 deserves to be comprehended well. One shall sit comfortably and to permit the transcending mind to imbibe these manifested features, the pair of creative dimensions synthesize value 6, pair of transcendental dimensions synthesize value 7. So single dimension, single creative dimension make one part of 4 components, and the pair of creative dimensions synthesis format lead to the second part of 6 components. Likewise, a single transcendental dimension as a format lead to 5 components, and pair of transcendental dimensions synthesis value 7 leads to the second part for the boundaries. One shall sit comfortably and imbibe these features. Further, one shall, while having a revisit to the transcendental boundary of 12 components of hypercube 6 on the one hand, and manifestation of 12 edges of cube, one will be blissfully parallel with as to how 3 space as dimension leads to 6 space and origin, and how 6 space as domain is enveloped within 12 boundary components, while 3 space as dimension is enveloped within 12 edges frame. Here it also will be blissful to take note that Pankti is of 5 steps range. So each edge of the cube as a Pankti will help us appreciate as to how these 12 edges as 12 Panktis ultimately go parallel with the organization of 12 transcendental boundary components of 6 space. And the formulation Pankti as of transcendental code value 19 is parallel with the transcendental code value 19 of formulation Madhya, the middle. And it is this way that we will be in a position to appreciate the organizations in terms of Pankti and Madhya. These values will ultimately help us process parallel with the organization of 6 space enveloped within a boundary of 12 components, which will on the one hand will take us to Dwadas Aditya's 12 suns, and on the other hand it will lead us to Dwadas Jyotirlingam. One shall sit comfortably and to permit the transcending mind to be parallel with these manifested organization features. Once we will be parallel with these organization features, we will be appreciative of the steps of Vedic mathematics processing techniques. Now, let us have a revisit to the internal and external structural features of a cube in the context of 10 directional frames and 12 edges on the one hand, and 10 creative boundary components of 5 space and 12 boundary components of 6 space on the other hand. See, our cube is having quadruple internal diagonals, and within the corner points. Within each of the 8 corner points of a cube is embedded a 3-dimensional frame of half dimensions. The internal diagonal as such becomes the translation path of these 3-dimensional frames of half dimensions embedded in the pair of endpoints of these edges. Let us take the edge as one of the directions. Then the 10-directional frame and 5 3-dimensional frames with common origin point will bring us parallel with as to how center of the cube is the seat of a origin as of a compactified range. Origins are at the common seat, center of the cube. However, the origins are in compactified format. So sequentially, the center unfolds, leads to the coordination line of the compactified origins. One shall sit comfortably and to permit the transcending mind to see as to how this sequential unfolding process at the center of the cube takes place. Once one will be parallel with this sequential unfolding phenomenon at center of the cube, we will be parallel with the unique processing technique of Vedic system to go parallel with the existence phenomenon of our solar universe. One shall sit comfortably and to permit the transcending mind to be parallel with this compactified manifestation and the way this compactified manifestation sequentially unfolds itself. With this, we can have a revisit to the manifested structural setup of our 3-space body cube as a single unit making value 1. 3-dimensional frame as a synthetic setup of a pair of 3-dimensional frames of half dimensions leading to unit 2. Interval, square, and cube as sequential manifested bodies, formats of single axis, double axis, and triple axis leading to unit 3. Quadruple internal diagonals lead to unit 4. 5-dimensional frames set up with the common origin at center of the cube leads to unit 5. And 6 spatial boundary components, 6 plates make unit 6. 7 versions of hypercube 7 as a representative regular bodies of 7 geometries of 7 space make unit 7. The split of 3 space as 8 octants and split of a cube as 8 subcubes lead to unit 8. 9 points fixation leads to 9 units. One shall sit comfortably and be parallel with it, and in this background one shall visit formulation Trishabda. Ye Trishabda Paryanti Vishwa is the first quarter of the first mantra of the first kanda of the Atharvaveda. Atharvaved preserves in the very first quarter of its very first mantra the formulation Trishabda. Literal meaning of Trishabda is 3 and 7. Now, if we concentrate upon this formulation syllable wise, the first syllable 3 leads to value 7. Sha leads to value 6. Pataha takes to value 5 and 6. This second syllable as such leads to value 17. And Visarjaniya is a value 13. So 7, 17 and 13 together sequentially read us to value 7, 24 and 37. The value 7 is the value of the origin of 6 space. Value 24 is the value of creative dimensional frame of 6 dimensions of 6 space. Value 37 is the value of 6 space as origin of a 5 space as a setup of hypercube 5 of full unit and hypercube 5 of half unit. This way will sequentially take us to the organization of Ganita Sutra 1 with its first letter A of TC value 6, Ka Brahma of value 4, A of value 2, Dha of value 7. And so the Ganita Sutra, the organization of 6 space and formulation Rishi, Devta, Chandan Mantra for swaras run parallel to each other. Sadhakas are fulfilled with intensity, forged to be parallel with Vedic systems, shall sit comfortably and be parallel with the organization of Ekadhikain, the very first word formulation of first sutra on the one hand, and the organization format feature of Rishi, Devta, Chand, Swara for every mantra of Vedic Sahita on the other hand. And one will be blissfully imbibing these features and will be manifesting appropriate mental state to run parallel with the unique processing techniques of Vedic mathematics. One shall sit comfortably, one shall permit the transcending mind to be parallel with the sequential organization of the very first formulation, Ekadhikain of very first sutra, Ekadhikain Purvain of Ganita Sutras, and then one shall be parallel with the formulations quadruple Rishi, Devta, Chand, and Swara for mantra of the Samhitas, and one will be blissfully acquiring the needed mental state to be parallel with the unique features of the processing techniques of Vedic mathematics. In this background, one shall have a fresh visit to Surya as a 6-space body. The origin of 6-space role for 5-space. 6-space as origin of 5-space brings us face to face with the manifested state for the origin of 5-space, that is for the 6-space as hypercube of 5 of full unit and hypercube 5 of half unit, making values 18 plus 19 equal to the transcendental code value of Shri Bhagwan. It would be blissful to permit the transcending mind to be parallel with this formulation Shri Bhagwan as of transcendental code value 37, parallel with the role of 6 space as origin of 5 space. Lord Krishna is having this divine song enlightenment as Shri Bhagavan. One shall sit comfortably and be parallel with these features of Vedic knowledge. Now, let us have a fresh visit to the formulation Trishapta, the very first Vedic mathematical value preserved in the first quarter of the first mantra of the Atharvaveda Samhita. Now, it is 3 and 7. Now see, the first triple 1, 2, and 3 is the unique triple, as each one of them is not having any divisors other than itself. The second triple 8, 9, and 10 is the composite triple, as each of these three values 8 and 9, 8, 9, and 10 are the composite values. The third triple 4, 5, and 6 is uniquely organized triple, which is standing interlocked in terms of the internal factors, which for the range of numbers 1 to 4 is 5, for the range 1 to 5 is 6. So these triple values 4, 5, 6 stand interlocked. The way artifices of this triple stand interlocked makes as a unique triple. So these three unique triples, 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, 10, 4, 5, 6, jump over value 7. So 3 triples and 7 is Trishapta. The 3 triples as of value 1 plus 2 plus 3, 6, 8, 9, 10, 27, 4, 5, 6, 15 together is 48, with organization 2 into 4 into 6 parallel with the dimensional frame of 6 space. 6 space as domain has 4 space as dimension, and 4 space as domain has a 2 space as dimension of 6 space, makes value 48. Hence, Trishapta brings us face to face with uniqueness of the values range 1 to 10. Sadhakas are fulfilled with the intensity of urge to be parallel with the Vedic processing techniques, shall visit and revisit and revisit Trishapta, 3 and 7. 3 plus 7 is 10. 3 is the first odd prime. 7 is the last odd prime of the numbers range 1 to 10. 3 plus 7 is 10. 3, 7 together as double digit number 37 is equal to the transcendental code value of a Shri Bhagavan. This way, the value 48 as 2 multiplied by 4 multiplied by 6 takes us to triple digits of the formulation Rishi for their transcendental code values. One shall sit comfortably and to permit the transcending mind to be parallel with the different organization format features of the formulation Trishapta, to be parallel with the unique features of the processing systems of Vedic mathematics. Once one is having these features in mind, then one can chase the numbers values 1 to 10 in terms of their factors. on the computer screen, the tabulation, the first column is enumerating numbers 1 to 10. In the second column is the enumeration of the organization of these values 1 to 10 as factors. 1 as 1, 2 as 2, 3 as 3, 4 as 2 cross 2, 5 as 5, 6 as 2 cross 3, 7 as 3, 8 as 2 cross 2 cross 2, 9 as 3 cross 3, and 10 as 2 cross 5. The third column is enumerating the factors. 1 has only one factor, 2 has one factor, 3 has one factor, 4 has two factors, 5 has one factor, 6 has two factors, 7 has one factor, 8 has three factors, 9 has two factors, and 10 has two factors. The fourth column is having sequential summation. Up till 1, there is one factor. Up to 2, there are two factors. Up till 3, there are three factors. Up till 4, again, two added factors. Then for 5, and this way we see we are having 3 factors for the first triple, 5 factors for the 4, 5, 6 triple, 7 has single, and then 8, 9, and 10 as well is having 7 factors. Together, they are having 16 factors. So the numbers values range 1 to 10 is a setup of 16 factors. We are having 16 Ganita Sutras. We are having 16 as the value of the dimensional frame of the creator's space of quadruple spatial dimensions. One shall sit comfortably and be parallel with this internal organization of the numbers values. These numbers values internal organization in terms of the factors are being made base of the uniqueness of the processing techniques of the Vedic mathematics. One shall sit comfortably and to permit the transcending mind to have focused attention upon as to how the numbers range 1 to 4 leads to factors 5, and 1 to 5 leads to value factor 6, 1 to 6 leads to factors 8, 1 to 8 leads to factors 12, 1 to 12 leads to factors 20, 1 to 20 leads to factors 37, 1 to 37 leads to factor 77, 1 to 77 leads to factor 177. This is how these internal organizations of artifices of numbers are having inward transcendence, and is this sequential inward transcendence beginning with number value 4 and then from 7, then from 10 are the unique fixations which have been fully exploited by the Vedic techniques. One shall sit comfortably and be parallel with these exploitations of the Vedic systems. Further, one shall be parallel with the dimensional frames. See, 9 space has 7 space as a dimension. The values range 1 to 7 is of spatial value 28. So 9 dimensions of value 28 each leads to value 252 for the dimensional frame of a 9 space. Now 8 space has 6 space as a dimension. The values range 1 to 6 lead to summation value 21. 8 dimensions of value 21 each lead to value 168 as the dimensional value of 8 space. Now 9 space has a value 252 while 8 space has value 168 and the difference value is 84. 7 space has a value 105, difference value from the 8 space dimensional frame is 63. Like this, we can be sequentially parallel with the dimensional values from 2 space to 9 space, and also we can be face to face with the difference values between these sequential dimensional frames values. These values lead us to the interlocked artifices on the one hand and synthesized dimensional frames on the other hand. Vedic systems are working out manifestation of our solar universe in terms of these interlocked artifices of values and synthesized dimensional frames. One shall sit comfortably and to permit the transcending mind, firstly to be parallel with the interlocked artifices of numbers, and then with the synthesized dimensional frames, and further to have complemented and supplemented processing system of Sankhya nishta and Yoga nishta to have their parallel formation for the chase of the manifested existence phenomenon of our solar universe. One shall sit comfortably and to permit the transcending mind to be parallel with it. And once we will be parallel with it, then we shall be appreciating as to how the values range 1 to 16 as a square, as a surface area 17 multiplied by 8 for values range 1 to 7 as 17 and 9, for values range 1 to 18 as 18 and 9, for values range 1 to 19, 19 and 10 are the area units. How these area units are to be worked out for the chase of our existence phenomenon of a solar universe within the creator's space of a spatial dimension is the unique feature of the Vedic mathematics, and one who wants to be parallel with these processing techniques shall acquire the skill of handling the existence in terms of area units. With this, one can reach at the manifestations of higher dimensional bodies as hypercubes within creator's space. Creator's space is a spatial order space. Here, 2 space is playing the role of a dimension. 2 space as such leads to area units. So sadhakas fulfilled with intensity of urge to acquire the skill of working with square units shall be face to face with the hypercubes 1 to 18 and to reach at the area units of these manifested ranges of the hypercubes. Hypercubes 1 to 16 lead to value 512. It will be blissful to take note that value 512 together with 8 letters of the 6th sutra within bracket for Anurupe and 1 for unmanifest letter of Ganita Sutra 8 take us to be parallel with total 519 letters of the entire text of Ganita Sutras and Upsutras, one shall sit comfortably and to permit the transcending mind to have a sequential reach for hypercubes 1 to 16, then from hypercubes 1 to 17, and ultimately up till hypercubes 1 to 18, which will lead to value 648, with an organization 8 into 81, which is 2 raised to power 3 into 3 raised to power 4. And it is this reach which be taken as the reach of Vedic mathematics processing technique of chasing existence phenomenon of our solar universe as interlocked values of numbers and spaces. Thank you very much.